You want to sell more product in F&I? Well, you got to listen to what I'm about to share with you. I'm going to share with you what I feel are the 5 best closes that you can use in the F&I office. And I'm talking about the best, okay? It doesn't matter whether you're selling tire and wheel, paint and fabric, key replacement. It really doesn't matter. Service contracts. I'm going to focus on service contracts a little bit, but I'm going to share with you one technique, one close that can close all the options. They're unbelievable. We're going to start with the most common one called the 99.9% reliable close. Now remember, you got to give a presentation that's feature only. A vehicle service contract pays for all mechanical and electrical breakdowns for a certain period of time and miles. Tire and wheel pays for damage to your tires and wheels when damaged by any type of road hazard, glass, nail, pothole. And there's cosmetic as well. So if you the tire inadvertently rubs up against the curb or the rim and gets scratched and they can repair it, they'll do a cosmetic repair on it. So you don't have to worry about that either. So you can retain the value of your vehicle. You have to explain the products in a manner the customer understands exactly what they do. You don't have to go into a dissertation and tell them everything that this thing does. Key replacement pays for damaged keys, lost keys, broken keys, stolen keys. Repair or replace those key fobs. Those are really expensive. And then you have guaranteed asset protection, which will pay the difference between your insurance company settlement and what you owe. And that's a lot. Could be a lot. But also pay your deductible of $1,000. That's how you explain the products to your customer, allowing you at the end of your presentation to look at the customer and say, now that they've shared the options with you, do you have any questions? Customer says, no, I don't. If they do have a question, obviously you want to answer the question. Most of the time they don't. No, I don't have any questions. And that was what I call the free no. And then you get right into the closes. The first close is always going to drive it to the money. So when the customer says, I have no interest in the programs, I'll take my chances, had it before, never used it, look straight at them and say, I get it. These options aren't for everybody. What I have found is the few folks who choose not to enroll, subscribe, purchase, buy these options, it's really one reason. They simply don't see enough value to make the additional purchase or spend the extra money. You ask them, isn't that how you feel, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? And most likely, they're going to say yes, probably 99.9% of the time. So what you want to do is you want to determine what product they're somewhat interested in or most interested in. And for this example, let's say that you said to them, if money were an issue with you, which 1 or 2 products would you select? And the customer said, well, I might select the service contract, but that's pretty expensive. And then you just simply look at them and say, you know what? Let me share something with you, okay? Or maybe the customer says, hey, I might take the service contract, but on second thought, it's my 3rd Honda. I never had a problem in the past. And that's an opening for the 99.9% reliable close. And you simply look at them and say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I couldn't agree with you more. Honda, Toyota, Chevy, Chrysler, they're the most reliable automobiles on the planet. But would you agree that nothing in this world is 100%? The customer looks at you and says, yeah, I agree. Nothing in this world is 100%. And then you look at them and say, you know what, I bet if you thought this vehicle were 99.9% reliable at the time you owned it, you'd say you got a really good car, wouldn't you? Yeah. The customer says, yeah. You look right at them and say, you know what, let's take a look at what 99.9% reliable looks like. And you grab a piece of paper and your Sharpie marker and you go to work. And you put that piece of paper right in front of the customer and you look right at them and say, you know what? 99.9% reliable. And you're talking about over 5,000 moving components, not counting all those computers, those sensors, those semiconductors, so on and so forth. So if your vehicle were 99.9% reliable, considering the 5,000 components that are in that vehicle, that would leave you with 4,995 components that are fail-safe, that are reliable. That's pretty good, isn't it? And the customer looks at it and says, yep, that's pretty good. And then you look right at them and say, you know what? That does leave 5 components that could be unreliable. And with the cost of repairs today, the average cost in our shop is whatever it is, you got to figure it out. You want to be truthful with the customer. And for this example, let's say $1,250 times 5, and that's just 5 components. Who knows? 2,400, 3,600, who knows? So now that you feel, even if your vehicle is 99.9% reliable, you still have a chance to spend that kind of money. Don't you think you should enroll in the vehicle service contract that you're most interested in? And the customer's probably going to say to you, sure, sign me up. Then there's the 3 warranty close. That's what we're focused on, service contracts right now. Customer says, well, you know what? I'm really not interested. I have a wonderful warranty on the vehicle. Never had a problem in the past. I'll take my chances. The word here is there may be another way of looking at it. Remember, there may be another way of looking at it. Do you mind if I share something with you? The customer says, go ahead. It seems to me that you're most interested in the vehicle service contract, or you have some interest in the vehicle service contract. I want to ask you a question. What's your understanding of the factory warranty? And the customer says, I told you it's a good one. I have 3 years. I have 36,000 miles. I have 10 years, 100,000 miles on the powertrain. Whatever they say, you simply look at them and say, you know what? I didn't know if you realized, but you have 3 warranties. Let me explain what I mean. And then you grab that piece of paper, you grab that Sharpie marker, and you write down these 4 blocks. Start with the first block, 12 months, 12,000 miles. That's what they call the adjustment period. While you're adjusting to the vehicle's adjusting to you. Then you have the 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. Most people refer to that as bumper to bumper. I like to refer to it as the basic warranty because it really doesn't cover the bumpers. Ha ha ha. And then you have that 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. And what actually is the powertrain? It's lubricated components, internal components inside the engine, inside the transmission, inside the driveline. You know, people can't picture that, so you got to elaborate on what powertrain coverage is. And then you look right at them and say, I've often wondered, and I'm sure you ever wonder why, and you draw that line down and say, the manufacturer limits the liability as time goes on to certain components? Customer looks at it and says, no, I don't know why. Why do they do that? Well, there's a couple reasons. The number one reason is, what's the likelihood of something that's being lubricated, maintained by you, surrounded by oil its whole life to break down? Customer goes, probably none, or very unlikely. Exactly, and that's why they warranty the powertrain for the longest period of time. Then you have the 3-year 36. Within that 3-year 36, there's a lot of electronics, a lot of semiconductors, parts manufactured by outside sources that have been bidded on. And the manufacturer doesn't want to stand behind those electronic components. After all, those aren't being maintained. And those are the components that are most likely to break down. And you mentioned to me that you're going to be driving this car 18,000 miles a year, keeping it for about 5 or 6 years. The likelihood of something breaking down that's electronic, modules, semiconductors is more likely than the powertrain. Wouldn't you agree? Customer goes, yeah. And then you draw that question mark and say, so there are questions in your warranty. Don't you want to fill all those answers? Have the peace of mind of knowing that you can cover this whole car for the whole time you own it? And you draw a circle or the block. You say, now that you see the value of the service contract, doesn't it make sense to enroll in it? Customer looks at it and he goes, you know what? That's a little bit expensive. You know, $48 a month, that's a lot of money. And then I'm going to share with you the calculator close. I like to use their cell phone, but let's use a calculator for this example. The customer says to you, it's too much money. Well, there may be another way of looking at it. You mind if I share something with you? Once again, it seems to me that you're most interested in the vehicle service contract. Or it seems to me that you're most interested in guaranteed asset protection or tire and wheel. That total $48 additional cost. Your base payment is $530. You got $48 in additional cost. I get it. You don't see enough value to spend the extra money. Well, as I mentioned, there may be another way of looking at it. You mind if I share something with you? And then you grab that Sharpie and you grab that piece of paper and you grab their cell phone and have them go through the exercise. Or you grab a calculator and go through it. And you take their $530 payment, divide it by 30 days. That's the average days in a month. And you look at them and say, look, that's how much it costs per day. And then you take this $48 and you divide that by 30. And you say, look, that's what it costs per day to have the products that you want. Doesn't it make sense to own those products for only $1.60 a day? After all, $1.60 a day isn't going to change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or manner. Now remember, the key to this close is to show them what they're paying now per day in the additional cost. And you explain to them that most people budget monthly and spend daily. They're on a mental budget, not on a written budget. They have enough money in the bank to pay all their bills. Their phone bills, their electric bills, their rent, put food on the table, their car payment, their insurance. It's all in the bank. Sometimes if the credit cards go too high, they pay the minimum balance. But the money's in the bank. That's their mental budget. But they're still going out spending every day. On average, I spend between $5 and $10 a day. How much do you spend, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? How much do you spend watching this webinar or watching this video? Probably going to say $5 to $10. If you're in New York City, you probably say $30 to $40. The fact is, you have disposable cash. And when you point out what the daily payment is for the monthly payment that they're comfortable with, and it's only $1, $2, or $3 more a day, and you look right at them and say, $1, $2, $3 a day isn't going to change your lifestyle in a way, shape, or manner, is it, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? But certainly having a repair, a breakdown, the inconvenience of not having a vehicle, having to pay for a rental, wouldn't it? Why don't you just spend the extra $1.60, spend the extra $2, spend the extra $3, have the peace of mind of knowing that if something were to happen, you're going to be more comfortable than you were if you didn't have it. And that's the calculator close. And then we have other closes. I'm not going to illustrate, but you should build an evidence manual. And you should point out all these electronics, all these semiconductors. And I've done many videos on how to handle that and where to get that information.